I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Alex, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years. We met in college, had a pretty good run. At least I thought we did. She was always the bitchy, sharp-tongued type, but I liked that about her. Made her interesting. She had this way of acting like she was the queen of everything, and honestly, I thought I was the only one who really saw through her act. So I got this neural implant about a year ago, state of the art, directly linked to my thought interface system. It was supposed to make communication smoother, more efficient. No more fumbling around words or missing cues. The tech linked my brain to machines, to data, to systems that analyzed everything I thought about. At least, that was the idea. It was supposed to be perfect, seamless. But things started to change in subtle ways. I noticed it during routine system tests. Whenever I was prompted to process voice commands or analyze emotional responses, I'd get these odd, fleeting feelings, like a flicker of anger or a sting of confusion, when hearing a certain voice. It was weird. I'd think, it's just my imagination, but the feeling stuck with me. I'd catch myself hesitating or feeling more tense when I heard a voice that wasn't supposed to affect me that way. Then the more I paid attention, the more I realized the voice that was causing these strange responses wasn't just random. It belonged to this guy, Mark. He's a calibration specialist for the thought interface system. He's the guy who tweaks the settings, runs the diagnostics, makes sure everything's working fine. Nice enough guy, but I never spent much time thinking about him until I started noticing how I responded whenever my wife Lisa mentioned him. She talked about Mark like he was just some tech guy, but there was this weird edge to her voice, this snarky tone she used whenever she brought him up. She'd say she had to go see Mark again, or Mark, giving me more trouble, like she was annoyed or maybe even mockingly flirtatious. I didn't think much at first. I figured it was just her usual bitchiness, her way of being sarcastic. But then I noticed other things, small lies, dismissive smirks, her changing her. Schedule last minute, saying she was working late when I knew she was. Little things, but enough to make me suspicious. One night I was fiddling with the system logs, trying to see if I could spot anomalies. I was curious if my emotional responses to Mark's voice had any correlation with actual data. That's when I saw it. A pattern. Hidden deep within the logs, there were certain voice signals, timestamps matching her calls or texts, and here, the kicker, these responses in my brain that I couldn't control. It was like my subconscious was reacting to her voice, but I knew I hadn't been consciously aware of it. I was stunned. This technology, supposed to link my thoughts to machines, wasn't telling me the truth about what I was feeling. The implant was supposed to give me clarity, but instead it was hiding something. Something I couldn't see, something I didn't want to believe. I started to wonder if my own brain had been manipulated, if the responses I thought were mine really weren't. And all along, Lisa had been hiding her affair with Mark, maybe even encouraging it, all while I sat there, trying to figure out if I was losing my mind or if I had been played. After that night, everything felt off. I couldn't focus on anything else. I kept replaying the logs in my head, trying to piece together what was real and what wasn't. The worst part was the feeling of betrayal, not just Lisa cheating, but the idea that my own mind had been used against me. That this tech, which was supposed to help me understand my emotions, was instead masking the truth. It was like living in a fog, and I was the only one who knew I was trapped inside it. I started paying closer attention to her. Lisa's behavior had already been weird for a while. She was bitchy, snappy, always quick to dismiss my concerns. But now, it was like I could see behind the mask. She'd snap at me if I asked where she was going, or if I mentioned Mark. She'd roll her eyes, say I was paranoid, accuse me of being overly sensitive, or just flat out deny everything. "You're imagining things," she'd bark. "You're just jealous of Mark because he's better at his job." That one still stings. It was like she was trying to gaslight me into doubting my own perceptions, but I knew better. I knew there was something she wasn't telling me. I decided I had to confront her. I set the stage carefully. I waited until she was in one of her bitchy moods, and I brought it up about her late nights, her calls with Mark, her strange attitude. Her reaction was immediate. She rolled her eyes, smirked, and said, "Oh, please, Mark's just a coworker, you're paranoid. Maybe you're the one cheating on me, huh?" That hit like a punch in the gut. I couldn't believe she would turn it around like that. I pressed her more, asking for details, trying to get her to admit something. She denied everything, told me I was crazy, and dismissed my concerns with a wave of her hand. "You've got trust issues," she snapped. "You're jealous, insecure, and you're inventing stories because you're bored. Mark is just doing his job, and I don't owe you an explanation." But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew she was lying. I felt it deep in my gut. She was hiding something big. I started to get angry, but mostly I felt this strange sense of sadness. I trusted her for years. Somehow she'd managed to keep this secret so well that I doubted everything I knew about her, about us. I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to the logs, to the voice responses, to the way her voice affected me. I remembered that flicker of emotion I'd felt during the system tests, how certain voices, certain words, triggered something deep inside that I couldn't control. And then it hit me. What if her voice, her presence, had been tied to all this from the start? What if she'd been manipulating me, using her influence over me to hide her affair? The thought was unbearable. I felt betrayed, not just as a husband, but on a fundamental level as a person who thought he knew the truth. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit by and let her keep lying, keep hiding what she was up to. I was a systems analyst, after all. I could use my skills, my knowledge of the tech, my access to the logs, my understanding of the neural interface, to get to the bottom of this. If she thought she could hide her affair with Mark, she had another thing coming. The next move was mine, and I was going to make damn sure I found out the full story, no matter what it took. The next morning, I woke up with a clear plan in mind. I knew the logs held the truth, and I was determined to find it. I started digging through every bit of data I could access: system records, voice logs, emotional response patterns. I needed to understand how much of my mind was compromised, if at all, and how deeply she'd been involved. I also needed to confirm what I suspected, that her voice, her tone, her words, had been deliberately triggering responses in my subconscious, responses I'd mistaken for my own feelings. I stayed up all night, poring over the data. The implant's logs were a mess of encrypted signals and timestamps, but I knew how to decrypt and analyze them. I built a mental map of her voice patterns, her calls, her texts, and there it was, clear as day, certain voice signatures that appeared repeatedly during moments I'd felt the strangest emotions. Anger, confusion, even a little jealousy. The system was responding to her voice, but I'd always assumed those feelings were mine. Now I saw it differently. Some of my emotional reactions weren't entirely my own. She'd been using her voice, her words, as a tool to manipulate me somehow. I didn't need the logs to confirm what I already knew deep down: I'd been played. Lisa had been controlling the narrative all along. Her bitchy attitude, her sneering dismissals, her secret meetings with Mark, they all pointed to something more than just infidelity. It was like she'd been trying to keep me emotionally off balance, maybe even to keep me from uncovering the truth. I felt a surge of anger, but also a strange sense of relief. At least now I knew what was really going on. But what really pissed me off was how much I doubted myself. This tech, designed to help me understand my emotions, had instead made me question my own mind. I'd let her manipulate my feelings, and I'd been too blind to see it. That realization hit hard. It made me wonder how much of my life I'd been living under her influence without even realizing it. Trust, once broken, leaves a scar that's hard to heal. And right now I felt like I was standing in the ruins of a relationship built on lies. I decided to confront her again, but this time I wanted to catch her in the act. I set up a recording device in our living room, something I knew she wouldn't notice. I wanted her to slip up, say something incriminating, prove to me beyond doubt what I already suspected. I knew she'd be suspicious, so I played it cool, pretended everything was normal. But inside, I was boiling. I was ready to expose her lies and get the truth out in the open. What I didn't expect was her reaction when I finally did confront her again. She looked furious, defiant even, and her words came out sharp and biting. "You're crazy," she spat. "All this tech stuff, you're just paranoid. You think I'd cheat on you. With Mark, please. You're insecure, jealous, and you're losing your mind." She denied everything as if her own lies weren't enough. She was doubling down, acting like I was the one at fault. But I knew better. I had the proof now. Her voice, her emotional cues, they were all part of the puzzle. I just needed to put the pieces together to see the full picture. Deep inside, I was torn. Anger, betrayal, sadness. I was feeling all of it at once. I never thought my wife would betray me like this, not with Mark, not with her sneaky lies. I kept asking myself how I could have missed the signs, how I could have been so blind to her manipulation. And yet, despite everything, a small part of me still wanted to believe there was a way out, a way to fix this if she truly cared. But her reaction, so defensive, so dismissive, made it clear she wasn't interested in fixing anything. She was just trying to gaslight me, keep me from seeing what was really happening. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. The technological betrayal hit me harder than I'd expected. My own brain had been used like a puppet, my emotions toyed with, and I'd been completely oblivious. How could I trust my own feelings anymore? How could I trust her? I was hurt, furious, and feeling more alone than ever. It was like I'd been living in a house of mirrors, constantly questioning what was real. All I knew was that I had to decide what to do next, because I couldn't keep living like this, doubting everything I thought I knew about my wife, myself, and the truth. The days that followed were a blur. I stayed home, trying to process everything I'd uncovered, trying to figure out my next move. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been completely duped, not just by Lisa, but by the technology meant to help me. I kept replaying the logs, the voice signatures, the emotional responses. I kept asking myself how much of what I'd felt over the years was real and how much was just her manipulation, whether intentional or not. It was a heavy weight, one that made me feel isolated, like I'd been cut loose from my own mind. I started to notice more signs of her deceit. Small things, her secretive texts, her changing her schedule even more, the way she'd get defensive when I pressed her about Mark. I'd catch her lying about where she was, what she was doing. She'd say she was at work, but then I'd find out she was with Mark or some other guy or just out doing God knows what. It was all piling up, and I felt like I was losing grip on reality. The thing that still haunted me was that her voice, her tone, had been so carefully calibrated to trigger emotional responses in me. That realization made me sick to my stomach. It was like I'd been living under her spell, and I hadn't even realized it. I wondered if I should confront her again, but I knew she'd just lie her way out of it. I was starting to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish bitch who didn't give a damn about our marriage. It made me angry, yeah, but mostly I just felt heartbroken. How did I miss all of this? How did I not see the signs? I trusted her so much, and now I saw that trust had been nothing but a fragile illusion. Every time she dismissed me, every lie, every sneer, they all added up to one thing: she didn't love me anymore. Or maybe she never did. And Mark. I couldn't get him out of my head. I knew he was the reason for all this. I started digging deeper into their interactions, trying to find proof, a smoking gun. Something concrete I could use. I was ready to expose her, to make her own lies backfire on her, but I also knew I had to be careful. Lisa was good at spinning stories, and I didn't want to become the crazy husband who accused his wife without proof. Yet I couldn't ignore what I knew, what I'd seen in those logs, what I'd felt during the tests. This wasn't just a fling. It was something calculated, something she used to manipulate me. One night, I decided to test her. I set up a little trap. I left my phone in the living room with a recording app running, hoping to catch her in the act or get her to slip up. I wanted her to say something incriminating, to say what she really thought about Mark. I wanted her to reveal her true feelings, if she had any, so I could finally put this nightmare to rest. What I didn't expect was the storm that followed. The second I played her the recording, her face twisted in anger. She accused me of spying, of invading her privacy. She denied everything, yelled at me, called me paranoid and possessive. The words she threw at me cut deep. "You're just jealous," she snapped. "You don't trust me, and now you're acting like some crazy stalker. Maybe I should just leave if you're gonna keep accusing me of stuff I didn't do." That was the moment I realized she wasn't going to admit anything, no matter what evidence I had. She was determined to maintain her lies, to keep her secrets hidden. She was also angry that I'd caught her, that I'd dared to confront her. Her reaction made it clear she saw me as the problem, not herself. It hurt more than I can say. I'd loved her once, believed in us, and now I was just a target of her fury. It was like I was standing in a storm I couldn't escape from, and each new lie she told felt like another blow to my already shattered trust. That night, I lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, feeling emptier than I had in years. I knew the relationship was over in my heart. That the woman I'd married had been replaced by someone else, someone who lied, manipulated, and used me. I felt betrayed on every level, not just as a husband, but as a man who'd trusted his own mind and his partner. I realized I had to make a choice: stay and keep fighting for something that might be gone forever, or walk away and try to rebuild myself from the wreckage. Either way, I knew my life would never be the same again. The decision didn't come easy, but it became clear to me that staying wasn't an option. Every time I saw her smirk or dismiss my concerns, I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I couldn't live in a house filled with lies, with a woman who had been using her voice to control my feelings and hide her affair with Mark. I knew I had to get out, even if it meant facing the pain head-on. I started planning. I reached out to a divorce attorney I knew from work, someone discreet who wouldn't ask questions. I also began gathering more evidence, just in case. Records of her calls with Mark, screenshots of her texts, even a few recordings I secretly made when she thought I wasn't listening. I wanted to be prepared for whatever she threw at me. I knew she'd fight. Hard to keep her secrets buried, but I also knew I couldn't keep lying to myself. I had to face the truth and accept that this marriage was beyond saving. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to gaslight me. She'd come home, act innocent, and spin stories about her work late or clients she was helping. She called me crazy, accused me of stalking her, and insisted I was just insecure. But I didn't care anymore. Her words didn't hold any weight. I knew what I'd seen, what I'd heard, and what I'd analyzed from the logs. The evidence was mounting, and I was finally ready to confront her with it. One afternoon, I sat her down, calm but firm. The moment I had been waiting for. I laid it all out: the call logs, the voice signatures, the emotional triggers, and the recordings. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark and that I had proof. Her face flushed, and for a moment she looked genuinely caught off guard. Then her mask slipped back into place. She sneered, rolled her eyes, and dismissed me again. "You're nuts," she spat. "You're just jealous because I don't want your pathetic ass anymore." Her eyes burned with anger. "Mark's just a friend and you're making a big deal out of nothing. You're controlling, paranoid, and honestly, I'm sick of your bullshit." That was the breaking point. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "I'm done, I'm leaving, and I've got everything documented. If you try to deny this or spin some story to save your ass, I've got the proof, but I'm not coming back. You've betrayed me, lied to me, used me, manipulated my mind, and I'm not going to be part of it anymore." Her reaction was pure fury. She started yelling, cursing, calling me every name under the sun. She told me I was crazy, that I was overreacting, but I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of relief, like a heavy weight had finally been lifted. I was finally taking control of my life again, even if it hurt like hell. The next few days were a whirlwind. I packed my things, moved out, and started the process of ending things. It was brutal. There were moments of doubt, moments of regret, but also a strange sense that I was finally free. I began to understand how deep the betrayal went, not just physically cheating, but emotionally and psychologically manipulating me right under my nose. The technology that was supposed to connect me to my feelings had been used to disconnect me from reality. Looking back, I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and even the tech that's supposed to help us understand ourselves can be twisted into a weapon. I was naive to think I had full control over my own mind, and Lisa's betrayal cut deeper than I expected. But I also learned that sometimes you have to rip everything apart to see the truth clearly. I don't regret leaving, because staying would have meant living in a lie forever. Still, part of me wishes I had seen it coming sooner, wish I'd been able to trust my instincts more. But now I know better. I'll never let anyone manipulate my mind or my heart again. In the aftermath, I've realized how much this whole experience changed me. I used to trust too easily, believed I was in control of my own mind. Turns out, I was just a puppet, pulled by her words and the invisible strings of the technology I relied on. It's painful to acknowledge how blind I was, how her manipulation seeped into my subconscious, making me question what was real and what was her lies. But as much as it hurts, I also feel a strange sense of liberation. I finally see things clearly now. Living alone has been a rough transition, but it's also been a healing one. I've started reconnecting with myself, rebuilding my confidence, my sense of trust in my own judgment. I've learned to listen more carefully to my instincts and to question everything, especially when something feels off. The tech that was supposed to make me smarter, more in tune with my feelings, nearly destroyed my sense of reality. But I refuse to let it control me again. I'm taking back my mind piece by piece. Looking back, I'd tell anyone in a relationship, especially one that involves advanced tech or any hidden manipulations, to be cautious. Don't let your partner weaponize your own feelings against you. Trust your gut, and don't ignore the red flags, no matter how convincing they seem. Things aren't always what they appear, and sometimes technology designed to help us can be used to deceive us on a level we never imagined. I've come to accept that love isn't just about trust, it's also about being vigilant. If you notice even the smallest signs that something's off, don't dismiss them. Dig deep, ask questions, and don't let anyone make you doubt yourself. Because in the end, the only person who truly knows your mind and can protect it is you. This whole ordeal has left scars, sure, but it's also given me a new perspective on life, on relationships, and on the importance of self-awareness. I still believe in love, but now I believe in trusting myself first. I refuse to be manipulated again, whether it's by an emotional liar or some piece of tech that's supposed to serve me but ends up betraying me instead. Life's too short to live under someone else's control. From now on, I'm steering my own ship, and I'll never let anyone hijack my thoughts again.